Welcome to Issues and Answers. Did you know that right now we are dealing with a silent crisis in America? Did you know that 1 in 5 American kids is poor, according to a CNN report? The National Center for Children in Poverty tells us that more than 16 million children in the United States, that's 22% of all children, live in families with incomes below the federal poverty level. Poverty also can contribute to poor health and mental health. Child poverty rates are highest among Black, Latino, and American Indian children. This is astounding. Here to talk with us today is Dennis Turner. Dennis Turner is up from Sugar Ditch, Mississippi, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what that's involved. He's here to talk to us about not giving up, never giving up, cannot give up. Welcome to the program, Dennis.
Thanks for having me.
Wow, it's just amazing when I think about your story, and I can barely wait till we can get into it now. So what do you think about those statistics that I mentioned earlier?
Alarming.
Alarming?
Alarming. As a former teacher, I can attest that those are facts.
Those are facts?
Yes. I've experienced watching children in poverty in the inner city as a teacher, and just seeing the effects that poverty have on kids is alarming.
You know, I was looking back here on the internet, and it looks like there's been 50 years of the war on poverty. It started with Lyndon B. Johnson, yes. And then going back to what you were saying about the high school, okay, and kids in education. Did you know that according to the internet, 1.2 million students drop out of high school in the United States alone, and that every 26 seconds, over 7,000 drop out a day? That's mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You know, my experience as a teacher, the kids are dropping out for some reasons that are not being discussed. One of them is the effect that poverty have on children.
Right.
It kills their self-esteem. It makes them. I'll give you an example. When I was young, I was a kid that grew up in poverty. Sometimes I was so concerned about the hole that was in my pants that I could not focus at school. And so when you can't focus at school, you fall behind. And when you get behind, then there's a whole nother slew of problems that come with that. Then you're picked on or you're talked about because you're not making a grade or you're not smart. And so it's a snowball effect, and it all stems with poverty.
Now, Dennis, I Googled Sugar Ditch Hill, okay? And I saw that some years ago, there was a 60 Minutes program.
That's correct.
Are you aware of that?
Oh, yes, I am. Sugar Ditch made national news in 1985. Not only was it a 60 Minutes program, it was a Time magazine, a slew of reports about that area. It was exposed as the poorest place in America. The
poorest place in America. That's where you grew up?
And that's where I was born, yes.
Were you around when they did that program, or was any of your relatives?
We were still around. We didn't live on Sugar Ditch at the time it made national news, but my mom is in some of the footages.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So exactly what was Sugar Ditch? What was that?
Oh, wow. Basically, it was a sewer ditch.
A sewer ditch? A
sewer ditch that ran along and had a row of shack houses next to it. Those shack houses did not have any indoor plumbing or running water inside of them. And people used to use the ditch as a place to discard their waste.
That's shocking.
Yes.
And you grew up with that?
Yes.
So were people, it almost sounds like, no offense, it sounds kind of third world. Or you're saying, I won't say third world, but you're really just poor.
Well, Reverend Justice Jackson put it, he quoted and said that it was America's Ethiopia.
So I mean, look at you now, though. Okay, so now we really want to hear. Oh. What happened? And the whole topic of not giving up. How did you get from there to where you are right now? Oakwood University graduate, playwright, you have plays that are out, you're a professional singer, you've written a book. How did you get from abject poverty, living next to a sugar ditch, to today?
2 words, God's grace.
God's grace.
God's grace. You know, my story started before Sugar Ditch. My story started with my mom. My mom, I'm the youngest of 12, and my mother was, she was a diabetic
Wow.
when she became pregnant with me. After having 11 children, the physician told her that she would not go for term and that I will be a miscarriage. But she prayed over me in her womb. And she said that after I was born, the story was given to me later. She said, after I was born, the doctor told her this was probably her healthiest baby she's ever had.
Really?
Yes. And so the challenge started before I came here. But once again, God's grace. We lived on Sugar Ditch. When I left the hospital, that's where we went, and that's what we call home.
You could have died, though, with that kind of an environment.
Yes. Yes, the death rate for young babies at that time was really high. It was a place that was full of infections and all kinds of diseases, but God's grace.
God's grace. So
God's grace.
What happened? You grew up, obviously.
Well,
what was that like?
Yes, it was very challenging because my dad was 69 when I was born. And 69 years of age. And when we moved from Sugar Ditch, we was able to get off Sugar Ditch into a low-income housing shortly thereafter, maybe 4 or 5 months later.
Was that a government special program that was kind of targeted to that area? Were you able to get out? Oh,
it was.
Thank God for that.
It was. My dad died 3 years later.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the challenge was really ongoing. But it refers us back to the title. Giving up was not an option. I had a praying mother, and she prayed over her children, and she did the best she could. And as the youngest, you know, I sit and I watched that. And as I grew up, I learned from her faith in God to have faith. And I learned from her to trust God on my own.
Wow.
And so with God's help, he brought me from lower education, because the school we attended in that county, not only was it the lowest, the poorest county, in America, it was.
I'm still wrapping my mind around that.
Yeah.
The poorest county in all of the entire United States.
And
so what was the education like for black children?
It was the same. It was the poorest education system in the United States.
So how did you get through high school and then even get to college if your education was so poor?
Wow, that's a long story, but I can tell you that my mom took sick when I was about 14. We had to move to the city of Memphis for her to have health care.
Okay.
It allowed me to enroll in a Memphis City school. I was extremely behind.
I was going to ask you, what was that like for you as a student coming in?
Very challenging.
What kinds of things did you go through?
Oh, man. Being poor, you live in poor areas, and you have to deal with the elements of the poor areas. So you have to fight gangs, you had to fight drug dealers to get to school.
That was once you came to Memphis?
Once I came to Memphis, yes.
So you went from the lowest county as far as poverty in the United States straight into a dangerous area.
That's correct. That's correct.
Wow.
But at the time, the community school was shut down, and they were busing us to a suburban area in Memphis.
Oh, my goodness.
So that school.
Right, so you went from poverty to gang violence to then busting up the segregated schools?
Well, it wasn't a segregated school. It was a suburban school which had some diversity, but it was about 70% white, Caucasian, and the level of the education was high. So I'm extremely behind, and I'm playing catch up. But it was God's grace. He gave me 2 sets of great guidance counselors.
Oh, really?
Yes. They work with me, and they help me. They put me on a plan to help me graduate.
So you went to Memphis when you were in high school?
Yes.
So you came from
the poorest place in America, which was in Tunica, Mississippi. The poorest educational system. to Memphis, to being bused to a suburban area in Memphis,
Outside of your neighborhood.
outside of my neighborhood.
Having to come back home and then fight with the drug dealers and the
That's
Lord
correct.
Jesus.
That's correct.
What'd you say? God's grace.
God's grace. God's grace.
But God gave you favor in the eyes
yes.
of some of. But then you say guidance counselors. But how was it with the teachers? How did the teachers treat you? How was that? How did you catch up, Dennis?
You know, to be honest with you, it wasn't anything that happened overnight. It was a long process, but just extra work, extra time, extra leniency, you know, as far as getting assignments in, because you have to understand there was a whole different world going on at home.
Really?
In my neighborhood, yes. Yes. Unfortunately, there's a lot of dynamics that I had to deal with other than my environment, and it included my own home. Unfortunately, I had a brother that was older than I. He got involved with drugs. He got engulfed with the community, and he became addicted. And so his woes came to our home. And so with the guidance counselor, when I spoke of this to them, they had, you know, compassion, and they were very, very, very helpful. And they saw something in me that, you know, I think they've never seen before with someone from this area. And that was the determination to make it. You know, I've seen a lot. I've seen my brother go down. I've seen him almost die. I've seen my mom become very ill and feeble where she couldn't even take care of us any longer.
Wow.
So at the age of 15, I was pretty much taking care of myself.
Well, so wait a minute. That's right. Your mom moved to Memphis, but your father had already passed away. Is that right?
That's correct.
So how are you guys making it?
Government assistance.
Thank God for that.
Yes.
So
yes.
all 12 of you moved to Memphis with your mom.
Well, the oldest 3 or 4 they were grown.
They were grown by then.
Yeah,
Okay.
they were grown. So the younger ones, we moved with my mom. The sister next to me was away at college. She was the first one to go.
Wow.
And so, you know, she used to give me these stories about college, you know, and I used to get excited about it. And, you know, I looked at the community and I looked where we were, and I always felt and thought to myself, there's something greater, there's something better than this, you know, and that I was going to not be denied that.
You were not going to be denied.
Not going to be.
I like that attitude. So, did you play sports?
I did. I played sports. Well, I didn't play that much in high school because of everything else was going on.
You had to go home.
I had to go home.
So the
I had
bus
to
would
catch
drop you
up.
off, and you had to go home and catch up.
Yes, I had to go home and just, you know, catch up academic-wise, and then home needed me. When I was 16, you know, my older sisters, they had to care for my mother. She really couldn't do much for herself. You know, her sickness just really took over her.
Wow.
And so I had to help. So I had to get a job. I had to help feed the family. Yes. I got a job, and I had to try to maintain my schooling.
What kind of job did you get? Could you find at that, you know?
At the age of 16, you're bagging groceries at Kroger or somewhere, some
That works.
supermarket, or you are a pizza boy at Sbarro's, you know.
Yeah.
But those are the kind of jobs that I had. You know, anything I could try to do to help my family, I would. I felt responsible. I don't know why. I was the youngest, but at the same time, you know, that was something I've always felt. And so I did the best that I could to help and to try to maintain school at the same time.
Wow.
It wasn't easy.
So you said there were extra hours that you had to spend, extra assignments.
Yes. Teachers were I think my guidance counselor had conversations with my teacher, made them aware of my situation. And so they were very helpful. You know, anything they could do to help, they would. You know, what if it was extra time, or what if it was an assignment that, you know, I needed assistance with? They would help me at school, because they understood the fact that when I went home, schoolwork took a back seat to all the dynamics that was going on in my home. And so, they really had compassion and worked with me.
So you graduated.
By God's grace.
You graduated high school.
Graduated high.
And then you went to college.
Yes.
What was college like for you?
Oh man, it was a whole new world. It was a whole new world. I went to Oakwood College, Oakwood University.
And how did that get paid for?
Oh man, God's grace.
That's private school.
God's grace. Thank God for loans. Thank God for grants. One particular semester I just couldn't clear, and the coach at the time, because I was playing basketball for the school, and he wanted to help because
wait a minute, you had never played sports before, and now you're playing for a college on a special team.
Yes. Well,
wow.
I could have played in high school. It just was too much. Between work, school, I couldn't maintain it all. So that got left out from high school. But in college, I got a chance to do that. And one particular semester, I remember I could not clear, did not have the funds to. And the coach called someone in the office while I was sitting there. He called him Cliff. And he told him my situation, and, he said, how much? That was the question. And he gave him the number. He said, the check is in the mail.
What?
I nearly just folded with tears, that someone would do this. Someone that I didn't know, that didn't know me personally, would do this for me. And that's when I took it gave me a new perspective and more energy to not be denied, and to always remember that giving up was not an option. And so when he hung up the phone, he said, did you know who I was speaking with? I said, no. He said, that was Clifton Davis.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
I was speechless.
The Clifton Davis, the actor.
The actor.
Okay, the preacher. The preacher. He's done a lot of different, you see him on television, different places. He wrote a check. Did you all know each other?
No, I did not.
Sight unseen.
Sight unseen.
God's favor.
God's favor.
Wow.
Yes.
So then you finished college, and of course now you're married, you've been an educator, and how did you get into all these other cool things that you're doing?
Yeah, I like to refer to myself as a late bloomer. There's things and gifts and talents that I possess, God-given talents that I never really explored until after college. College I was one track mind, one focus, just finish. Whatever you do, finish. Because, it was really hard my first couple of years. I still had a mom. She was really, really ill at that point. She was really knocking on death's door. And I wanted so badly to finish so she can see and be proud of her son, as well as to give back and help her. And so, of course, I graduated, and 2 months later, she passed away.
Oh, sorry.
But, there was something she gave me that I live by today, and that is faith. Her faith, watching her every morning, worshiping God when she wakes up, from a kid all the way until she got too ill to do it, and watching her life, it instilled in me faith, and it gave me something to start with, that I, with the Master, got my own relationship and created my own faith. And now I think that same prayer that she prayed over me in the womb still resonates with me today. And I want to make a difference, because it's not how you start, it's how you finish. No matter what situation you're born with, or whatever your economic status is, or whatever you have, your parents are not. You're here for a purpose. God has brought you here for a purpose. And the thing is, we are not to quit no matter what is thrown our way. Giving up is just not an option. We have to learn whatever God is trying to teach us in the process, and take that and use it to make it. Whatever God has for us, whatever our purpose is, it is our job to find it and to live in it. And I believe that.
So Dennis, someone watching the program, listening to your story, would want to know, do you travel? Do you give motivational talks?
Course.
And then most importantly, what can you share right now for maybe the mother or the uncle or the father or just a loved one that's working with a particularly troubled young person? What could you share with them to make a difference? And what's a good way to organize a group of people to be mentors to others?
Wow. I would say to mothers that are struggling or to those that have children, first of all, do not give up. That's first of all. Never give up. Giving up is not an option. And secondly, or I should say, 1A, always pray for your children. Always lift them up and put them before God. That's very, very important. But kids they have different reasons for doing different things. Mm-hmm. You know, I've come in contact with kids from poverty areas, all the way to kids that come from well-to-do areas.
Have you coached kids before?
Oh, yes. I've coached kids in different sports. Not different sports, but different ages in the same sport of basketball. And my experience has been with, you know, kids from the low end of the poverty line to the high end of the
Right, higher echelon.
Yeah, echelon. Mm-hmm. And they all have the same problem. They all have the same issues, self-esteem. They all have the same issue of, you know, being affected by self-confidence because of someone not endorsing them or someone not believing in them. You know, that's important for children. They have to feel that they are loved and somebody cares and that somebody supports them. You know, money has nothing to do with that. We have to instill that in all our children. Mm-hmm. And I would tell them that even if you don't get it from home, God will send someone, what if it's a teacher, a coach, to give you what you need, that inspiration, that endorsement to keep going. The goal is to find your purpose in life. God has created you for a purpose, and the goal is to find it and to live in that purpose. And that's what I would definitely tell young people today. And if you question what the purpose is, I tell them all the time, it comes easy. And they look at me sideways and I say, well, I tell you this, what is it that comes very easy to you? You know, I have kids that they could sit down and do things on a computer that I know some people went to school for couldn't do.
Yeah. I
said, that came easy for you. That's a talent. That's a gift. You might want to explore that. God may have something for you in that area. There are talented kids that, you know, when I was coaching, some kids couldn't dribble and walk. And then there were some kids, seemed as though they came out the womb dribbling the ball. That was a gift. You know, maybe there's some purpose in that. Explore it, you know. And I tried to tell them to stick with what you know until it evolves.
Stick with what you know.
Yes.
Until it evolves, until you see something else that you can develop and get into.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yes. You know, I do speaking engagements all around. What if it's churches, banquets, schools? Mm-hmm. You know, I do it all because I love dealing with people, young, old. I love instilling in them some sort of inspiration. Mm-hmm. And I always try to use my testimony because God gave me this testimony. And I'm going to tell it, and I'm going to let people know that God is the author and the finisher of my faith. And He is the reason why I'm still here. He is the reason why I've overcome a lot of things in my life. And so, you know, I try to you know, instill inspiration wherever I go. And so, you know, I'm open. Of course, they can always contact me at... You have a website? Oh, yes.
What's
I have
your
a
website?
It is theboyfromtheditch.com.
Theboyfromtheditch.com. Wow. Okay. And that's where you have like some, besides being able to engage you and to be able to have you come and visit, but do you have some suggestions, you know, resources for parents and for young people even to be able to come to? They can search out and get that information.
Well, I don't know where to start. Of course, I've written the book. Of course, they can always read that. But I've done even more. I've taken the first quarter or the third of my book and composed it into a stage play. Trying to be innovative and creative and reaching young and old in inspiration. We love the word. We all love to hear the word, and we love singing. Music is beautiful. But we are dealing with children. It's a new generation. They're high tech, they're savvy, and their attention span is short. And so we want to be creative and intentional in getting their attention,
right?
And to instill inspiration in them. A lot of kids there, being around kids, I'm told a lot, they're just not interested in the same. And so I just wanted to be creative by taking my story, transposing it to a stage play, and presenting it.
And so that may be another way maybe for kids to be able to learn either by coming to see the play or even participating in role-playing activities, you think?
Definitely. What I would like to do is, when kids come and see the play, I would like to keep in touch. We try to have some information out where we can stay connected. What if they're becoming a follower of my Facebook page or Twitter or Instagram, to where we can interact. Mentorship is very important with youth these days. Once again, I cannot express enough how young people need to feel that someone cares.
You said endorsed. I like the way that is. It's like, wow, people wear different logos and things that represent a company. When you say endorsed, that word makes me think about having that support from their parents and from those that really love them.
It's important. It's important. The kids' confidence can dictate how high they go. Their confidence level in just feeling endorsed and feeling supported, it gives them confidence to accomplish anything. That we can mentor a child, and that can be the next child to cure cancer.
Say that.
We
That's
can mentor
awesome.
a child, and no matter where they come from, it could be the next child to cure AIDS. We have to pull together.
Dennis, I want to thank you so much for coming to the program today. Really appreciate it, your words of encouragement. For those of you at home, wow, thank you so much. Wasn't this an incredible story? It was for me to listen to. Never give up, can't give up. Let's just keep going with that thought for the rest of the day. Have a great day.